Parent-teacher conferences are this week. I believe they are tomorrow night and Thursday night, just so you guys know. And then I think there's absolutely no school on Friday. Right. Yeah, Friday's a yellow day, so that means like the district is closed down. So no Friday school this week. So if you need anything, make sure you get in for flex or you're welcome to stay after school tonight, tomorrow night, or Thursday. Something like that. I deserve it, buddy. But this would be a good week to bring this into the mix. Can't avoid them. So if I teach you how to solve literal equations and we never address how to use roots, then that's a very incomplete and unfair thing. Like I can't say, oh, good job, now you know how to solve literal equations. That's not fair to you. So here's what we've always been doing. Whenever I give you a problem that looks like this. So if I gave you like mr squared minus k equals p. I've asked you to do a couple of worksheets on this. I hope you're done with those. Like that was what you were supposed to do, is get those done. What I've always done to this point is I haven't asked you to solve for the one that has the exponent, and that's been very much on purpose. So like going into today, I would have said something like solve for m, right? So let's solve for m, just get ourselves warmed up from the weekend. What would we do first to solve for m? Right, you guys are really good. Let's add that k across to the other side because we just instinctively know that we got to eliminate all the extra terms. So that leaves us with the mr squared still on the left-hand side. What will the right side say? Right, just p plus k. Good job. K plus p, p plus k, you can write it in whatever order you want. And with addition especially, there's like almost no way to miss it because k plus p and p plus k are just like same, right? So that's not important. And if we're going to solve for m, what would we do next? We would divide both sides by r squared. And we would wind up with m equals p plus k divided by r squared. So there's your brain warm up for this lovely Monday morning, right? That's what we've been working on. Nothing difficult. That's nothing difficult, I don't think, right? So what's going to change today is I'm going to have you now start solving for variables that have exponents on them. So we need to talk about roots, and you don't have to do any real mathy sort of roots today. That's a different lesson for another time. But for today, you have to understand how roots and exponents behave. Everything in math can be killed with something else, right, Braxton? Like pluses can be killed with minuses. Times can be killed with divide. Minus can be killed with plus, and so on and so forth. So the way to kill an exponent is with a root. So I assume you've seen this symbol before. Do you guys know what that's called? Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That's called a radical. And in this case, specifically, it refers to what we call a square root. And you won't ever see anyone put this, but just for the record, for your information, this is a second root. And we don't have to go down the road of third roots. They're called cube roots, fourth roots, fifth roots. We don't need to talk about those today. But that type of symbol right there is called a square root. And what it does is it comes into the mix now and it says, you can use me to undo exponents. So just like a plus can undo a minus, or a times can undo a divide, a square root can undo a square. And again, a cube root could undo a cube, and a fourth root can undo an exponent of 4, and so on. But today, the only ones you're going to see are these ones, and these are called square roots. So I just erased my little red 2 because no one ever is going to put a root sign and put a 2. The only time we put a number up there, that number is called the index, is if the root changes and becomes a third root or a fourth root. Then we have to specify. But with square roots, you won't see the number, okay? So you use this to kill squares. And that's the task for today. This should not take long. Once we get in the groove, you'll realize these 4 examples don't have a lot of weight to them. They're not difficult. It's just new, which is why we have to do a little lesson on this. So that is called a square root, and it is now into the mix as the guy that we use to take out exponents of 2. So let me specify that just so that no one's confused. I wrote squares. That's something with an exponent of 2. Clear? Okay, so let's get to it. Let's redo this problem. I'm going to erase some things now. Let's redo this problem again, only this time let's change it up. And rather than solving for m, you guessed it, let's solve for r. So this will be the first time I think anyone's ever asked you to do this. Follow your instincts and continue to just go with what you believe, because what you believe is the right thing to do, honestly, is probably going to be the right answer. Not saying guaranteed, but just follow the flow of this. So just gut instinct, what do you think we ought to still do first? Yeah, we still are going to add that k across. Like that just feels like the right thing to do. So I'm going to leave the mr squared over on the left, and my right side is going to say again p minus k, or excuse me, p plus k, or else you can write it, I'll write it backwards this time, k plus p. Neither one is any better than the other. There are times when we'll care about the order that we put letters in, like alphabetization, but that's not what this is about. And Delta Math won't care either, by the way. I don't care. What do you think is the next step? Yes, we're going to divide by m. And that will not mark the end of the problem, right? So like if I divide by m, unlike the last time, this one will not be over. So I'm going to have r squared equals k plus p over m. Now, previously, if I did tinker with an exponent, I would have asked you to solve for r squared, and you would have put a box around it and said, I'm done. Woo! But not anymore. So hopefully the first 4 minutes of the lecture sunk in. What do? We have to take the square root of both sides. I don't think you've ever done this before. You've added things to both sides 1,000 times, and you've subtracted 1,000 times, and you've multiplied and you've divided, but never before have we been asked to do this. I'm going to take the square root of the left side, and I'm also going to take the square root of the right side. And again, the lesson on actually how to calculate numerical square roots, that's going to be a different time. We don't have to math this out. Like there's really no math to do per se. The idea is that like on the left side, what happens when I square root r squared? What does this become? It just becomes r. That's the whole idea, is that I use that square root to get rid of that exponent that's bugging my variable. And then the right side, I simply write like this, the square root of k plus p over m. That's not hard, is it? So we're still following the same principles. We're just doing all the math that our instincts tell us to do. But at the end, that final kill shot feels a little bit different than it has in the past, right? Square. So you have to now say, I have 5 operations now in my arsenal. I can add on both sides. I can subtract. I can multiply. I can divide. And today, I can square root. Got it? Okay. Now I'm going to give you my examples, and I'm going to reorder them based on, I kind of freestyled that part a little bit, and it made me call an audible on myself. So I'm going to rearrange my examples in a different order. I like this better. Okay. All right, so I have 4 examples to run through, and then I will shut up and get out of your way, and then you should feel after this like I'm ready to roll. So let's do k equals 5x y squared minus m to the 4th. And based on what you see on the board and what you just sat through, can you guess what I'm going to ask you to solve for? Just y. Very good. If I asked you to solve for m, you actually could do it just fine. Just at the end for your kill shot, you wouldn't use a square root. You'd have to use something called a 4th root. But I clicked through about 50 delta math problems because sometimes like it gets sneaky, and I never saw anything other than a square root. So I don't think that you will either. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think so. All right, so again, instincts. This is our target right here. What do we do first? Definitely get rid of that extraneous term. Any standalone off to the side term, just move it out. Get it out. Move it to the other side. So the left side is now going to say k plus m to the 4th. And the right side is going to say 5x y squared. It looks so much harder than it is. Like if you went back in the time machine to a week and a half ago and said, I'm going to be solving this, you'd think, well, this is really hard. Not bad. You're just moving stuff around. What's the next step? You've got to divide away that 5x. If I'm thinking that I want to get y by itself, then the first thing I have to do is pry 5 and x off. They can't be there when I root. Okay, so we do have to divide both sides right here by 5x and right here by 5x, and that eliminates the 5 and x. And we're left with y squared equals a mess, k plus m to the 4th over 5x. But I'm not scared because I understand that the end game here is relatively anticlimactic, right? What are we going to do to both sides? We're going to square root both sides. And at the end of this, on the right side where my target variable is, and again, Addie might already have this flipped around backwards. I just, not to pick on you, but I know that you're just someone who said something. So I know a lot of you have that, you want your variable on the other side, and that's fine. I'm just going to leave it how it is. So y equals what? Stone. Right? Now, if you're thinking, okay, it's time to fall asleep, I get this, don't do that, because now I'm going to trick it up a little bit for example 2. All right. So at the risk of asking a very dumb question, it's never stopped me before, here it goes. What's the problem with y? It's stuck. I like the way you say that. It's stuck. It's in jail. And that, just like parentheses, is a huge problem. Basically, there's a big loudspeaker right now announcing Y, M, and R, you are not free to move about the cabin. Like, you're stuck. So as with parentheses, I have to have a way to get rid of them. With parentheses, it's called distribution. How do you think we're going to get rid of that square root sign? You guys are amazing. We're going to square it. If square rooting kills squares, then squaring can kill square roots. Just like if plus can kill minus, minus can kill plus. So I'm going to take both sides of this equation and I'm going to square them. So this is now our 6th tool in our math toolbox. Now we can add, subtract, multiply, divide, square root, and square. We can do 6 things now to each side of an equation at our discretion. What's over here now on the left? Correct. And ooh, what's over on the right? It's easier than you think. So what do you think it says? It is. What happens is I'm going to color code this for you. The red thing and the purple thing, they kill each other. In the same way that a +5 would make a -5 just go away, an exponent of 2 and a square root just go poof. They cleanly kill each other off, leaving us with just the contents inside the root. Do you follow? And I know initially I heard you guys saying things like y squared and m squared, but you understand that that exponent, that red exponent of 2, he never gets a chance to go in. He gets taken out by the root. And then the rest from here is cruise control, I think. So what do we do to solve for y? Add r, and we get x squared plus r equals ym. And then, of course, the last step to solve for y is we divide by m. So we wind up with y equals x squared plus r divided by m. Easy peasy?
Yep.
Okay. Vamos a hacer dos más ejemplos. Dos más ejemplos. Perfecto. Examples. Want to guess what we're going to solve for? Of course. By the way, not every problem in this assignment is going to have this. Like I'm going to ask you to do a handful of them, and maybe only 5 of them will use today's new tricks. So don't think that you're doing something wrong if you feel like, wow, this is like the ones I did last week. Delta Math doesn't just force all problems with square roots. So you might find yourself never having to use the new stuff today on certain problems. So what do we do first? Add the whole 3x to the other side. So Mountain West squared equals 5 quails minus 3s, or excuse me, plus 3 xylophones, right? Next step. Divide by m. Remember, don't lose your focus. Your target is in this red box. And I know that the red box is not the end game, but until I get the red box by itself, I can't arrive at the end game. So divide by m is the next step, and you're left with your target ready for square rooting. W squared equals 5q plus 3x, all divided by m. And then, of course, you know by now, what's the last step? Square root both sides. So that leaves us with w equals what? The square root of? You got it. And by the way, Delta is going to have a square root button for you to use. So whenever an assignment calls for the use of it, there'll be a button below, you know, the little box that you type your answers into. Right below it, there'll be a little button for the square root. So you just click that and you're good to go. And you'll encounter some difficulties with like, how do I type this in? And I can come around and give you a hand, or I can just kind of let you figure it out. It depends what you want. So let's do one more and then I'm done. Last example for today, number 4, is I have m equals the square root of big R times little k plus little x cubed. And I'm going to ask you to solve for k. I thought this would be good practice. Again, I want to say something I said earlier. Delta Math doesn't have any emotions. It doesn't have the ability to say something like, wow, you tried really hard. Let me give you partial credit. If you don't respect the capital letters versus the lowercase letters, you'll get it completely wrong. Okay? And that's really actually good. Some people might say that's really harsh. And I say that's exactly what we need, is something like that with 0 tolerance for little mistakes. And so Delta will track, are you doing everything uppercase or lowercase based on the problem? Okay. It's good math practice. And math, like when you get to Mr. Manlove's geometry class next year, you'll see that we don't do it so much in Algebra 1. You'll see it a little later, but in geometry, capital letters mean one thing and lowercase letters mean something completely else. So it's important. Good practice. What do we do first? We got to square away. I think of it like a crane coming in. I need a crane to come in and grab that radical sign and hoist it and go boop and drop it in the ocean. And so that's what the exponent does for us, is it basically crane drops that root off into the water. So we're going to square the left side and we're going to square the right side. What do we get over here on the left? Right. And equals what, Cruz? Good man. That's exactly right. Remember, we don't actually do any math over there on the right side. It's just it's an inverse thing. Exponent, root, go kill each other off, leave us with the stuff inside. Now everyone's free to move about the cabin. Who would we move next? Yeah, that X has to get out of the way. Because if I'm targeting K, yeah, I want to kill the R, but that's the last step. I got to get rid of the extraneous garbage terms. And so X cubed is trash. So we need to move him over. So we have M squared minus X cubed equals RK. Still good? Next step. Divide by big R. So we're going to wind up, and I'm going to, my screen just ran out of scroll space. So I'm going to move over here. It's bad practice. I'm sorry, but I'm out of room. So if I divide by big R, then I'm done. And I can now say that K equals what? And that, as they say, is that. You guys feel like you're good? It's not bad at all. Nope. So yeah, your assignment, it's number 11, is should have posted itself on Delta about 20 minutes ago. If it's not there, let me know. I'll leave the recording going and I'll unpause it if anyone has any problems that they want to go over. Okay.